going to tune our instrument. We just replaced the strings, and now we're going to tune them. Although we can do this with, even if you didn't change the strings, we can do that. So we've got a non-line instrument. Your strings are all wobbly sounding, right? Because they need to be, right? We don't want to pop any strings, so they usually come a little bit loose. They are never ready to go. They're never tuned. They're not ready. They've been in the mail. They've all kinds of weird. They've been thrown around, tossed around. They're not tuned. We have to tune them. So it's not that you got a broken instrument that you need to complain and get another instrument. Well, you may have gotten a broken instrument, but we'll investigate. This one, but we do have to tune them. So when they really, you should be tuning your instrument every day. So you cannot expect an instrument that has gone through the mail to be tuned. Okay. So my favorite tuner to use is the Master Violin Tuner for Android. They do have it for iPhone too. And for the life of me, I cannot remember what it is, what the name of it is. But it does look like this, or it's going to be hard to see. There we go, our letters and things like that. Letters and numbers through the camera. But this is an awesome app. The reason why I like this, whether it's accurate or not, I mean, I think it's pretty accurate, but need to test it against another tuner or whatnot. But this one's going to help us learn how to tune, right? Which is really important. And then you'll be able to tune it by ear down the road. This one's going to teach us how to tune. It's awesome. So it's called Master Violin Tuner. I love it, love it, love it. And for Android, it's free. For iPhone, it's $4. I don't know. $4, $8. I don't know. $4, I think. And it's called Tuner Violin Master, or some strange combination. But anyway. So we have our strings. We can also hear our strings, right? My volume's turned down, but you can hear your strings, right? So you can match it by sound, but it also has G3, D4, A4, E4. Very important. So if you don't know anything about music yet, all of our notes are going to repeat in name, but not necessarily the same note, right? So they're going to repeat. We could have low A, high A, but if you don't know anything about music, you don't know what those notes sound like. Well, how do you know which note you're tuning to? Are you tuning it too high, too low? And if we want to be very careful not to over-tune our instrument, because we're going to stretch out those strings. Okay, so it's really important. Well, we don't want to pop a string for one. You have to go get another string, right? But stretching it out is very bad. So our strings are kind of coiled up like this, and it'll stretch out, right? Also, you don't want to tune it too quickly, which we're going to go very in depth of that. But you don't want to tune too quickly, because imagine like a rubber band, right? We go pop, right? If we move it slowly, it can take a little bit more, right? So we want to be careful with that. All right. Love this. You can listen to your strings, but also when you're close to a note, see that our G string just lit up. While I'm talking, these strings are all going to light up several times. Yes, I have a high-pitched voice, but so our strings are going to light up when you're in the vicinity of the note, which is also a great indicator when you're in the vicinity of the string, right? When you're very lost with how all this works and what G are we tuning to, what E, especially E. E always pops, right? So it's our highest, it's our thinnest, so we're going to be very careful with it. Okay. Then we have our letter. So once we get it to light up, then you're going to get your note inside the white box. So if it's G right now, it is, I'm going to freeze it real quick. Okay, so if it's, well, actually, there we go. I froze it. Okay, so I clicked on G and then stopped it from tuning. Anyway, so if it's G, right, we have G3. It's going to light up, but also our triangle, there's a white triangle inside there, could be a little bit over here, it could be a little bit over there. So it's kind of this, think about it kind of like a conveyor belt. So we got A, B, C, D, F, G, A, B, C, D, F, G, A, B, C, D, F, G, and they keep repeating, right? So we need to know what direction we're going with this. Do we need to tighten? Do we need to loosen? What do we need to do with the string to get that triangle inside the box? Okay, and we'll talk about that in a bit. All right, so G is going to ring at a 196 hertz. So up at the top, right, it's going to tell you what you should be, right? So 196. And then down here at the bottom, which is normally yellow, but I think it's more of a yellowish. But anyway, it's white right now. It tells us what we actually run. So then we want our numbers to match. Okay, recap. Get our string to light up. Then get our note, the same note, G3, get that one in the middle. Then get your triangle, right, inside the middle, right, inside the box. So I had a student who was G3, and then G3 was popping up somewhere on the side, this side or that side, I'm not sure. And then she was trying to get her triangle to go over there. But remember I said something about that conveyor belt, right? So her goalpost basically just kept moving on her. That's because we wanted G3 in the middle. So first we want G3 in the middle, then her triangle, get that one in, boop, in the middle. Then you want to try to get your numbers as much as possible, this number to match this number, and break it all the way down to the decimal as much as possible. And then that gets your strings all nice and in tune. Okay, so this is how our tuner works. So first, we want to walk our strings to get in tune. What I mean by that is, again, we don't want to just simply take a string and tune it completely. There's no point. One, it can pop if we do that, right? So we want to, these brand new strings, so we need to ease them into it, right? So ringing a C4. I need to get to a G3. I'm going to tighten it. I'm going to push up, but only a little bit. And D4, sharp, D, E, F, G. So I got 3 notes I need to get to, right? Okay, so I'm going to leave that right there because I need to see what my other strings are first, right? I'm going to go to E because, again, we want to keep everything nice and equalized. So our pressure needs to stay consistent as much as possible. We do not want our bridge to move. So I'm constantly checking to make sure that my bridge doesn't move. I need to check it. Keep it nice and straight. Make sure all feet are flat. Nothing's wiggling or leaning or anything like that. Okay. Okay, I got a C5. C, D, E. Not 2 off, right? Remember I said G was 3 off. We're pretty good pressure-wise, right? So we did 2 on the outside because that's pressure here. So now I've got roughly equal pressure here and here. Yeah. G4. Well, that's really just one. That's not too far off. So we're going to go ahead and leave that. Let's go to D, sorry. D is an F. So I'm going to an F3. Just making sure. move. Because it's a cheaper violin. And it's got cheap pegs. Getting closer. Notice that when I'm moving this, you can hardly see that I am moving, right? Really, I fuss at my students. I make sure that these strings are never facing their face, but you see I turn it a few times. So, but really want to keep these strings away from our face. So now we're at about a C4, and where we're trying to get to is a D4. So we're getting pretty close. We're going to leave that one alone. Remember, we're going to walk it in tune. So we're going to let that one breathe a little bit. Because these are also moving, they're stretching, right? Because they're new. They're new. And E change. So that's the next thing. So there's really no point in just taking the string and going, get that one straight in tune, because everything's put together with pressure, and the pressure changes whether your string is tuning, right? So if we were to tune it immediately, when we tune another string, we've changed the pressure. That one could drop, or it could get higher, which is worse. So you don't want to do that. See how much I'm moving. I mean, you can barely see that I am moving. But you can hear it going higher. Now it's the ring, so not the initial sound. And we will do this with the bow. Now that one's a D5 sharp, so it's about a half step up, roughly. I'm going to let that one breathe. I'm going to go to the A string. G4. Getting closer. G sharp. Let that one breathe. Next one is A. This one's harder to move. For the click, be careful if you hear it. That's your pressure. C sharp. We're gonna leave it. Yeah, and they're all they're moving. So okay, let's go to G. This one's harder to grab. Unfortunately, I mean, that's what you deal with one of the many things. It does make it harder. Okay. Going back to a D. I'm also going to now loosen my fine tuners. So my fine tuners were all the way down, so now I'm going to loosen those. Reason being, it's like a reset. That's what I call it. So reset. I'm resetting my fine tuners. Sometimes, you know, depending on your weather, humidity, all kinds of different things, you're tightening your strings a lot. So now that I'm loosening, it's going to drop that sound down even more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get as close as possible with my pegs. Then I'm going to just use the fine tuners. So when you're tuning your instrument for your child, or if you're the student tuning it, you want to like get this done and then not move the pegs anymore, right? Because every time you move that peg, you might pop that string. So I really don't like students moving the peg, but we got to do it at some point. So it's a C sharp now. D sharp. The ring that we're tuning. Of course, it's way off. Of course, I'm tuning to a 440. Now, if you have good pegs, you're not going to grab, see how much I'm struggling with these pegs. You're not going to grab your pegs like that because it's going to go, right? Teeny tiny movements. These strings are going around. Ooh, the old string. Okay. String is going around the peg, right? That's how much of the string I just used, right? So if you're twisting this peg, right, and you're just going, well, guess what? You've just shortened your string. There's 1, 2, 3. You just shortened your string by that much. So yeah, teeny tiny movements. It's not just gonna turn it. A3, we need to get to a D4. So it moved. Behave myself and do what I tell my students to do. Move those strings away from your face. C sharp. Well, not yet. No, pretty close. A little bit past C sharp. And I have plenty of students setting up their online instrument online. We went a little high. I'm actually going to leave it there. Normally I'd say no, but because these are new strings, a half a step's not too bad. It might knock itself back down. Notice I'm kind of like leaving certain strings alone, right? So like I just keep a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Start here. And what we're going to do is we're going to keep doing this until eventually they're all perfectly. E's in tune. Let's see if it moves. And if you have your tuner out, you should be able to follow what I'm doing. See. As long as it comes across well on the camera. Okay, I got G sharp. Now, I probably could do this with the fine tuners at this point. And just so I don't have to watch my student freaking out, I usually, well, at this point, stop them because I don't want them moving these. And yes, these pegs they're hard to move. And most online instruments are. Sometimes your rentals and stuff are really bad too. Okay, and they're getting harder to move. Either that or my hands are tired. G is actually not too bad. Okay, and D is the C sharp. That one was my hand's tired. I'm going to use my fine tuners now. Pretty close. Going to A. Lift it up. Twist it. About clock. Going forward in time. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. We're tightening the string to go higher. loosening the string to go lower in sound. It's almost an A. 5 more. Ah! Remember I said E was in tune. It moved. Now I'm holding it up like this so you can see it, but see the direction that I'm going and all that. Now some instruments have fine tuners that are hard to move and get new fine tuners. Just give up, get new ones. Oh, it's moving. Good. Okay. Now that we're getting close, bowing without your mute on is going to give you a much more accurate tune. So that's what I'm going to do. I have a trick for this. Students have a really hard time figuring this out. Okay, I say go shoulder, and I tell them take their bow hand because they'll start getting confused. I'll say take your bow, hold it out, and we don't do this immediately because this is really hard to figure out. And if it's apparent, then we just like pluck it on the table. It's fine. But if you've made it to this point, then I go bow out, wave, shoulder, nose, fine tuners. There they are. For some reason, if you say grab the fine tuners, they immediately go and come around every single time. And this doesn't matter how old you are. Little ones, adults, this is the same thing. So okay. Now we're nice and clear to bow, right? So you want to be careful. This, we don't want to see this, right? So first you have to be able to hold here anyway, right? And also bow in a straight line. So not, I mean beginner, but not like your first 3 lessons or something. Notice the difference between these strings and the strings that I had on before. So the last ones I had on were dominants. These are red labeled. These are, at least on this instrument, it reacts different. Different brands are going to react differently with different instruments, brands of instruments and quality of instrument and all kinds of things like that. But this one is projects. For this particular instrument, and these are actually much cheaper. These are much cheaper than your dominant string. Dominants are very popular, and I like them. They're good. Actually, and I haven't had them on these strings. I actually had, or I haven't had red label on this instrument before, but I have had red label as a kid, and they lasted me like way longer than they were supposed to, because I didn't know to change my strings. and they worked a really long time. But that's what I had was red labels, sensitive, super sensitive. And they are. Like they're catching the sounds quicker. Again, that's on this instrument. Sounds a little raspy on that one. Yeah, it's raspier. I mean, I'm trying to break it down all the way down to the decimal. Yeah, that G is strong. E is clear. Good clear. Two. G and D is really strong with these. Okay, and then with the mute on, rubber practice mute, I suggest all students